and welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today I am so excited to be introducing our new die, Magic Iris. Magic Iris is a die that helps you make a really cool interactive card, and this is what that card does. How cool is this? These cards are so much fun to make. They're pretty easy to make too, and they are such a blast to decorate. The other cool thing is that we have two decorative add-ons for the Magic Iris. The add-on in the middle helps integrate the Magic Iris onto your card, and the add-on at the end here is our Scalloped add-on, which gives it this really cool effect that makes it the star of the show. And so this is a look at how those work. This is the add-on here that kind of integrates the Magic Iris into the card. You can see how cool this is. And then this is the Scalloped add-on that makes the add-on the star of the show and gives it this really cute scallop texture. In this video, we're going to be showing you how to put the Magic Iris together and also how to use the two add-ons. And we're going to be making these three cards in the video too. So I can't wait to show you guys everything. So let's go ahead and get started. We're starting here with the Magic Iris die, and this die has all of the pieces that you need to create a Magic Iris card. So first up, we have the ring piece. Then we have this little piece I like to call kind of like a nuclear reactor piece or maybe a flux capacitor. Then we have our stabilizer piece. We have our piece I call the sausage because it kind of looks like a sausage. We have our tab, and then we have the decorative part of the tab. To create a Magic Iris, you're going to take the ring piece and you're going to die cut it 3 times so that you'll have 3 separate rings. We'll then put 2 of these rings aside and we're just going to focus on 1 of the rings. And we're going to be taking out that flux capacitor nuclear reactor piece. I always laugh calling it a flux capacitor. And you'll see that on this piece, it's got this rounded circular part to it. That's going to match up with the interior rounded circular part of your ring. So we're going to flip it over and we're going to line those rings up. So you'll see we're lining up the circle and lining up the circle. Then we're going to take some low tack tape. We're going to hold that in place. We'll run it through our die cut machine. And now on one of our rings, we're going to have the detail of that piece, which means we're going to have 3 slots and also 3 little stitched brackets that are going to be a guide that we're going to be using later on for the Magic Iris. So that means that now we have 1 ring with the slots cut out of it and 2 plain rings. Our next step is to die cut the sausage piece. So we're going to be die cutting 3 of those as well. Now you'll notice in this die that has a little detail, and I call it the X marks the spot. It's at the end of this little sausage piece. You can see it right there, and that's going to be a guide for our adhesive, and I'll be showing you how to use that in just a second. Now that we have those cut, we're going to bring back that ring that had the slot and bracket details, and we're going to be adding these sausages to the ring. So you may have guessed how these are going to work. We're going to take the end of that piece that kind of has a little tab, and it's going to go into that slot. So we're going to take that, we're going to put it into the slot, and we're going to push it to the outside edge of the ring. So we're going to be pushing it back all the way to the outside edge. Now, as we do that, you're going to notice that there's the curve of the sausage and there's the curve of the ring, and those are going to be lining up perfectly. So now we're going to repeat the same thing for the other 2 slots. So we're going to take our piece and we're going to put it into the slot. We're going to push it to the outside edge of the ring, and now all of a sudden we have the curve of the sausage and the curve of the ring are lining up. So we'll take the 3rd one and repeat the same thing. We're going to add it to the slot, push it to the outside edge of the ring, and now you'll see that these pieces are all lining up perfectly. They're going to overlap slightly and create a ring where we're having a nice clean center in the middle. The next step is to add some adhesive to those X marks the spots, and we're going to be using glue dots here. So the size of these is important. They need to be 3/16 of an inch. In glue dots, that's the mini dots. There are other brands of this type of adhesive that you can use as long as it's the 3/16 of an inch size. So we're going to take that mini glue dot and we're going to add 1 glue dot to each of those X marks the spots. So there'll be 3 glue dots in total. So we're going to pick up the second one and add it right down to that X, and then we'll do that with the 3rd one. So now we have 3 glue dots on the 3 sausages that are all around our ring. Next, we're going to take one of those plain rings that we cut earlier, and we're going to make sure that our sausage pieces are perfectly lined up in the center. So you'll see we want a nice ring. This is exaggerated here, but we don't want them too far in or too far out. You want those curves lining up perfectly. So now I'm going to take these, kind of line them up. I'll fiddle with them, make sure that they're perfectly lined up. Once I have those in nice placement, what I like to do is I hold them in place with one hand and I pick up my plain ring with the other and I just line those right up. So you're going to line it up and that ring is going to be attaching down onto those 3 glue dots. Now that our plain ring is attached, you're going to see that there's 3 little tab pieces that are kind of sticking out the outside. Don't worry about those yet. We'll deal with them in a little bit. So we're going to flip our piece over and you're going to recognize something from the beginning here. We've got those cool little brackets that we die cut out earlier, and those are going to be guides for our adhesive to attach our stabilizers. These are our stabilizers here, and you guessed it, we're going to be die cutting 3 of those. We're also going to be using some adhesive to attach these down. That adhesive is going to go where those brackets are, and it's going to go from the very inside of the ring to the outside of the ring, right at those bracket spots. So as you can see here, we're going to take our tape runner and we're going to go right at that bracket from the inside to the outside, making a straight line. We'll be repeating that on all 3 of the brackets. So here we're going to go from the inside to the outside in a nice straight line at that bracket, and then we'll repeat it on the 3rd one too. So inside to outside, nice straight line. So here is our stabilizer, and you'll notice that the die has cut a nice little curved line for us, and that curved line is going to match up perfectly with the curve on the inside of the ring. So we're just going to take that stabilizer and we're going to attach that right onto that adhesive that we just added. So the stabilizer is going to line up with that little bracket detail, and we're going to do that 3 times. So now we're going to attach the next one, lining it up with the bracket detail and that adhesive that we already added, and then the last one, all attached in place. Once our 3 stabilizers are attached, we can take our ring and flip it over, and now we're going to start working with our tab piece. To figure out placement for the tab, all you need to do is pick one of the stabilizers, and any of them are fine because they're exact same. You're going to point it down or towards yourself, and then you're going to take your left index finger and kind of put it right on top. Now you're going to take your tab and it's going to go directly to the right of your index finger, and that's perfect placement. Now here you'll notice on that tab that it's got a nice curved edge, which is going to match up with the curved edge of the inside ring. And to place this tab, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating kind of a V shape. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take our tab and we're going to shift it towards that stabilizer right until it leans right up next to it and creates that little V. So that right there would be too far. As we move in, now we have our V shape. So we're going to add some adhesive to the back of this. And I add a little bit less than half of the tab full of adhesive. Once we have our adhesive on there, we can take it, we're going to line up the curve with the inside curve of the ring, and then we're going to move that down just until it touches where that stabilizer is, creating that V shape. Once we have that in place, we're going to take our 3rd ring. This is a plain ring, and that ring is going to be going right on top without any adhesive or anything. We're just going to lay that right on top of our whole mechanism. Then we're going to take out that tape runner again, and we're going to be adding that tape runner to the 3 stabilizers. So we'll take our tape runner and just add that right on top of all 3 of them. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be lightly hugging around these stabilizers. So this is the trick here, is we don't want this next part to be too tight. If it's too tight, your ring isn't going to move at all. So we're going to take that stabilizer right there and just fold it over gently. Now, when you fold this over, you're going to notice that it doesn't go all the way to the inside edge. That's good. That's how we want it to look. If it goes towards that inside edge perfectly, that means you've made it too tight. So we're just going to lightly hug them around. And you'll see I'm just folding them lightly with my finger just like that, and however it lands is good. Now these are in perfect placement and we have a magic iris. So now the best part, we're going to take that tab and we're going to move it and you're going to see that your magic iris works. This is the most fun part. So right here, I always like to take it and kind of move it back and forth, see how it's working. And now that it's working, I can keep moving on to attaching this to my card. When you attach a magic iris to the card, you want to make sure you attach it into the closed position. And that's because you're going to be sending it to the recipient in the closed position. So for example, if I had attached it here in the open position and then closed it, my tab would be sticking outside of my card and it wouldn't fit in the envelope. So instead, I'm going to attach it here, making sure the tab fits onto the card front. I can do portrait or landscape, a square-shaped card, whatever you're looking to do. And we're going to make sure we put it in that closed position. Now that we have it back in the open position, you may notice that those little tabs are sticking out of the outside edge. So all we're going to do is flip it over and we're going to fold those little tabs in just like that. You don't need to fold them really strong or anything, just kind of fold them. It's really easy to do. And that's going to keep them from sticking outside the outside edges when it's open. So now you can see we can open it and close it and they won't be sticking out of those outside edges. To attach the magic iris onto the card, we need to add some adhesive, but we're only going to add it to those 3 stabilizers because we don't want any of that adhesive to be in the way of that moving mechanism. So we're going to use those stabilizers as a guide and just add some tape runner to each of those stabilizers. Then we can take it, we're going to put it in the closed position as we're going to add it onto our card, and we can kind of place it wherever we want it onto that card front and attach it down. Once we have it in place, I always like to press really hard on all 3 of those stabilizers to make sure it's attached really well. And now you can see how cool this is, and it reveals to the card base right now, which is a really cool look. Now, of course, it doesn't look finished quite yet. So what you would do is you would take that ring and you would die cut it one more time, maybe out of pattern paper, something you inked, something you stamped. In this case, we're just going to do some nice craft cardstock. And you could put adhesive all over the top of that ring and then just layer your decorative ring right on top. That finishes it off, lets you decorate and create a really cool scene with this magic iris. And now you can see we have our decoration and our functioning mechanism. One of the cool things that that ring die does for you, it actually die cuts a little circle in the center as well that has this awesome stitch detail to it. So you can have your magic iris open up to your card base as we've done here, maybe add some stamping in there, or you can decorate this little circle and have that circle be a part of the reveal. So you can decorate it separately and then drop it into the magic iris like we just did. So we're going to put some tape runner on the back of that stitch circle, we would decorate it, and then we could drop it right in the center. There's also another way to add this circle that I'll be showing you later in the video. And so now our magic iris is revealing to our stitch circle, which we could add some stamping and etc. decorating on. And you can see just how cool that looks. Our last step is to add our decorative tab. So this comes in the magic iris die. We've die cut it out of some white cardstock here. All you need to do is just add some tape runner to the back of it and you can layer it right over that tab. And I love that arrow because it lets the recipient know that there's something special here. If you pull this tab, something really cool is going to happen. So we can add that on there and now the recipient knows to open and move their magic iris. Now that we've created with the magic iris die alone, it's time to look at those add-ons. And this is the scalloped add-on. So you'll see that it has this really cool scalloped ring. It also cuts a cross-stitch circle in the center, and it has a more plain decorative arrow tab. So what you would do is you're going to create the magic iris exactly how we did in the center, right up until that point where we added it onto our card base. So right now we have a magic iris with our magic iris die, and it can move and close. And then the next step we're going to do, just like before, is add it to our card base. So we're going to add some adhesive to those 3 stabilizers and only those stabilizers on the back. Then we can take our magic iris and add it to the card. In this case, I'm going to do a portrait card because I thought it would be fun to change it up just a little bit. So we're going to add that down, press down really well so that it's stuck down to our card, and you can see that really, really cool movement that we have going. Now this is really easy. Instead of adding that plain ring that we die cut earlier, we're going to die cut our scalloped ring instead, add some adhesive to the top of the magic iris, and layer that scalloped ring right on top. Now our magic iris has a totally different look even though we built it in the same exact way just by adding this cool decorative add-on. We're also going to add on that little arrow tab so that the recipient knows what to do, and you can see just how awesome this looks. Right there we have the magic iris opening up to the card base, but if you chose, you could die cut that cross-stitch circle, decorate it with some stamps and some cool coloring or something, and then you can pop that right into the center. So we're just going to drop that right in. You'll see I'm just going to kind of push down until it's in the center and attached to my card base. And then when we open our magic iris, it's going to reveal that really cool cross-stitch circle instead. So it's just a little bit of a different look, which I really love, and that scallop detail is just so cool. One thing to note is that you can mix and match any of those interior circles. So all three, the original magic iris and the two add-ons, have either a stitched, a cross-stitched, or a plain circle, and you can use any of those circles with any of the different ways of decorating. So I love that you can mix and match everything, and I just love how pretty this scallop circle is. It's just so cute. Now it's time to look at our other add-on, and this is the one that integrates the magic iris into your card front. It comes with that cool cover plate, a different type of tab, and a plain circle insert that you can use. Once again, we're going to be starting with our magic iris as we created it earlier in the video with the magic iris die. We're going to stop right at that point where we added the magic iris to the cards earlier in the video, and in this case, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be adding the arrow tab that comes with the add-on on first. You'll notice when we add it on, there's a little bit of that tab there sticking out. We're just going to take our scissors and trim that right off so that our tab has a little bit of a different look with a nice flat edge. Now we're going to take out the kind of cover plate part of this piece. And you'll notice when you take this piece and put it on a standard size card, it has a really nice border. Now here's where I'm going to show you that other method of adding in that little circle piece. We're going to use this cover plate as a guide, add some adhesive to the back of our circle, and just drop that in just like this. Now we've got that attached to our card, and we can line up the magic iris over top of it later. And don't worry, I'll be showing this method again later on in the video as we make cards. Now, just like before, we're going to take our tape runner and add it completely there to the top of that ring. Then we're going to be lining this up with that cover plate. So the circles are going to line up and the flat edge of that tab is going to line up as well. So you'll see we're going to line up that circle, and then on the right hand side, we're going to line up that flat edge so that it's nice and flush, creating a nice flush rectangle. Once you have your circle and your piece lined up, then you can press down and attach that ring to the cover plate. Then we're going to flip it over and we're going to add some foam squares here. Now you want to make sure those foam squares don't get in the way of the moving mechanism. So you can add them in the four corners and then just in the center at the top and bottom. And that's the only foam you need to add. Then you're going to recognize this here. We're going to be adding our tape runner to just those stabilizers again. So onto the three stabilizers. Then we can peel up the liner paper on our foam squares and attach this onto our card base. So I like to, at this point, open up my magic iris and just line it right over that circle that we attached down onto the card, and then just push right down. And now we've got it attached to the card base, and we've integrated our magic iris into the card front. It's a totally different look, and it's so cool and so fun for creating scenes. Now it's time to start creating cards with the magic iris and the two add-ons. So we're going to be creating 3 different cards, and we're going to start out by just using the magic iris. So we've die cut a ring, and we're going to take our flux capacitor piece and line it up. Remember, the inside of the ring is going to line up with that circle on the piece. We'll hold it in place with some low tack tape, run it through the die cut machine, and now we have a ring cut with the slots and those cool little stitched brackets. We're also going to die cut 2 more plain rings. Next up, we're going to die cut those sausage pieces, and we're actually going to die cut them from some pattern paper this time. They work great out of pattern paper, and it's a really quick and easy way to decorate your magic iris. So we'll be cutting 3 out of that spiffy speckles paper. Next, we're going to insert those pieces into the slot. So we're going to add it into the slot and push it all the way to the outside edge, making sure that the inner curve of the sausage lines up with the inner curve of the ring. So in the slot, all the way to the outside edge, and we're going to make sure those all line up. We're going to take out our mini glue dots, which is the 3/16 of an inch size glue dot, and we're going to add those glue dots to the X marks the spots that the die created for us, 3 glue dots on 3 X's. We're going to position the sausages so that they perfectly line up with the center so that we have a nice clean ring in the center. I'll hold it in place there with one of my hands, and then we're going to take a plain ring and just line that right up. We'll push down and it's going to attach to those 3 glue dots, and then we can flip it over. We're going to die cut 3 stabilizer pieces, and we're going to take out our tape runner, and we're going to add that tape runner where those stitched brackets are that we created with our die earlier, from the inside edge to the outside edge on all 3 of those brackets, a nice straight line of adhesive. And then we're going to take those stabilizer pieces and we're going to line them up. There's a curve on the stabilizer piece that's going to line up with the curve of the inside ring, and we're just going to attach those right onto where we added that adhesive. And then we can flip our magic iris back over. we're going to take the tab and we're going to add some adhesive about halfway, a little less than halfway down the tab. We're going to pick one stabilizer, put our left index finger on there, and then go directly to the right of that piece. We're going to line it up with the stabilizer, creating that V shape just like we did earlier. Then we'll take another plain ring and just lay that on top, no adhesive or anything. And then we'll take our tape runner and we're going to add it to all 3 of our stabilizers right on top of them. So we'll just add that right there on the second one and then the third one. Here is where we're going to be lightly hugging those pieces around. So remember, not too tight. And when we hug them around, they're not going to go all the way to the inside edge. You'll see there's a little gap there right when we push it down. That's what you want to make sure yours look like. Now that we've attached our stabilizers, we have a functioning magic iris, so it's time to test it and you can see how cool that is. And I love seeing those pieces move being made out of pattern paper. We're going to flip our magic iris over and we're going to fold in the little ends of those pieces, just like that, to make sure that they're not showing on the outside when our iris is open. Next, we'll take out our Hello Sunshine paper. We're going to pick this sunshine piece right here and die cut that decorative arrow tab that's included in the Magic Iris set, and we're going to add that on there. And that's going to be a great guide to the recipient as to how they're going to move their Magic Iris. We're going to put that magic iris aside for now and start working on the card base. This is a standard size card base at 5.5 by 4.25, and we're using some of the 12 by 12 size paper of the Hello Sunshine Remix collection. So I love this pink paper, it's so pretty. And on the other side of that pink paper is this really cute little banner piece. It's one of my favorite papers in the whole collection, and we're going to layer that right on top. We're going to take this green piece of paper that is actually from our Really Rainbow collection, and it's this great bright kind of neon green, and we're going to be die cutting that with our Grassy border die. We'll take that piece of grass there, add some tape runner on the back, and attach to the card. Now we've added a ground for our scene, and we've got that cute little banner as our sky. Now we're going to take that ring piece and we're going to die cut some of the Dandy Day paper, and we're going to be using that interior stitch circle that it creates. And we're going to add some decoration to that, and we're going to be doing that with one of my favorite new sets, which is Offset Saying's birthday. And there's a really cute saying in here which is make a wish. So I've set them up on blocks here, and I have a solid and an outline. You can use the solid and the outlines on their own, or you can use them together, and we're going to use them together this time. So we're going to take some mermaid ink and we're going to stamp the outline part of that. You can see it already looks really pretty, but to make it more bold, we're going to stamp the solid part in the brand new kiddie pool ink. And how cool does that look? I love how bold it is. It's so much fun. I love how I was easily able to fill in those letters. Here is our Dandy Day stamp set, and I went ahead and stamped and colored one of the flowers in this set, and we're going to layer that right underneath the Make-A-Wish, and then we'll just trim off any of the excess. So I like doing this. It kind of looks like the flower kind of keeps going. You'll see it's going to kind of look like it keeps going into that grass we added earlier. Now to add this circle in, we're going to use the magic iris as a guide this time. So we're doing it a little bit differently than we did at the beginning of the video. So I've got my open magic iris and I'm just kind of eyeballing where I think I'm going to put it on the card. We're going to add some adhesive to the back of that stitch circle and just put that right in the center there using the magic iris as a guide. Now it's attached to our card base and we're ready to start working on attaching our magic iris to it next. We're going to flip that magic iris over and we're going to be adding our adhesive to those stabilizer pieces. So just on those stabilizers, on 3 of them. So we're adding the tape runner to each of those stabilizers. Once we have that on there, we can add it onto our card. And you'll see that because I've already added my circle, I'm going to have to do a little eyeballing here. So I know that's how I want it to look when it's closed, but I need to open it so I can see through to that circle. So you'll see this is a little bit different than what we're doing at the beginning. It's just a different way to add your circle. Either way works. So right there, I know that's how I want it to look when it's closed. So I'm going to open it up now and just line it up right over that circle. I can press down, and now not only do we have it in perfect placement over our stamped circle, but our tab is in perfect placement on the card too. I recommend trying both the method we did at the very beginning of the video and this method and seeing which one is your favorite. Next, we're going to be doing some decorating with Dandy Day. So we're going to be attaching our images on the right-hand side there with some nice flat adhesive, some tape runner. We don't want any foam squares here because we don't want these images to get in the way of that moving tab as the recipient moves it. We're also going to be doing some stamping directly onto the magic iris. When the magic iris is closed, it's actually super flat and really, really easy to stamp on. So I love doing this because it adds an entirely new dynamic element to this, because as you open the iris, your stamped images are going to move. So you can imagine you could try this with all sorts of cool things. Megan, from our design team, actually tried it with the fortune cookie, and the fortune cookie opens up and on the inside is the fortune. Totally genius. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Now you may notice something here. When I did my stamping, I did it before adding my decorative ring. And that's because if I make any kind of mistake, it doesn't matter because we're going to cover up with our decoration. So we used the ring die from the magic iris, and we die cut some pretty pattern paper, added some tape runner to the back of the ring, and then we're layering that right on top to give it this really cool finished look, which I absolutely love. We're going to take our cute little mouse here, and this guy we're going to pop up with some foam squares since he won't get in the way of the tab moving, and that's helping kind of finish set our scene. As I was looking at the card, I thought it needed one more thing, so I took out my Butterfly Kisses stamp set and stamped those clouds in some mermaid ink to match the sentiment that's on the inside of the magic iris, and we're just going to attach those on with some tape runner, and I feel like it's that little extra perfect finishing touch. And now we can finally play with our magic iris and our finished card. How cool is this? I love that when you open it, what's revealed is the sentiment. It's so amazing. I also love that by stamping those little dandelion pieces onto our middle of our magic iris, it looks like those pieces are floating away to reveal our sentiment. It's so much fun. It's so cool. And I absolutely had a blast making this card. Next up, we're going to be creating a magic iris using the add-on, which is the one that integrates it into the card front. So we're going to start off by once again creating a magic iris. And we're going to be doing that by getting the ring die, and we're going to be die cutting one ring. Then we'll take our flux capacitor looking piece, line that up in the center, hold it in place with low tack tape, run it through the die cut machine, and now we have a ring with the slots and brackets. And then we're going to have 2 plain rings for a total of 3 rings. We're going to take out some of that Hello Sunshine Remix paper, and we're going to die cut the sausage piece out of this star and moon paper, which is so pretty. We're going to take the ring that has the slots in it, and we're going to put our sausages in there. We're going to put them in the slot and then push them all the way to the outer edge of the ring, lining up the curve of the sausage with the curve of the inside of the ring. We'll do that with a third one, and now we've got them all in place. Our die has made some little X marks the spots for us, and we're going to take those 3/16 of an inch size mini glue dots and add them to each one of those X's for 3 glue dots total. We'll make sure that the inner parts of the sausages are lining up with the inner part of the ring, hold those in place, and then take a plain ring and lay that on top, attaching it to those 3 glue dots. We'll then flip our magic iris over, and we're going to get our tape runner out, and we're going to add lines of tape at each of those brackets from the inside of the ring to the outside of the ring in a nice straight line. Then we'll die cut 3 stabilizers, and we're going to line those up over the adhesive we just added. Each stabilizer has a curved end, which is going to line up perfectly with the curve of the inner part of that ring, and we'll make sure to attach all 3 of the stabilizers. Once we've done that, we can flip our magic iris back over. We're going to die cut the tag piece, and in this case, we're going to die cut it from some black cardstock to match everything that we're doing with our card. We're going to pick one stabilizer, point it towards ourselves, put our left index finger there, take that tab, and then line it up to the right of that stabilizer. We'll add some tape runner on the back about halfway down. We'll line up the curve of the tab with the curve of the ring and the edge of the tab with that stabilizer so that it forms that V shape. We'll then take a plain ring and lay that on top, and then add tape runner to the top of those 3 stabilizers and lightly hug them around. When we attach them down, we're going to notice that they're not all the way connecting to the inside of the ring, and that's exactly what we want. We want them lightly hugged around. So we're going to press that down, make sure it's nice and secure, and now we have a functioning magic iris, which looks so cool because we've got that pattern paper there with the stars and the moon, which looks so amazing as it opens up. We're going to put this magic iris to the side for now, and we're going to work on ink blending. So we're going to be using this add-on, which is that cover plate style. And the first thing we're going to do is create an inked background with faded jeans, worn lipstick, and wilted violet. I like creating my background on a piece of cardstock first and then die cutting it because I have a lot of extra room to play, and it's kind of nice and easy to hold that cardstock there at the bottom. And you'll see that I'm bringing my cover plate to it just to kind of see how high up I want each color to go. This is one of my favorite color combos for kind of a nighttime sky because it's kind of magical and cool. It's really bright and just pretty, and I just love it. And to create that blend between the two colors, I'm going back and forth where they both meet up. So a little bit of purple, a little bit of pink, overlap them over and over again, and that's going to blend it in. Same here with our purple and blue, going back and forth until they're blended together. Once our sky is done, I'm going to let it dry just a little bit, and then we're going to die cut it with the add-on. So we're going to run that through the die cut machine, and you'll see just how beautiful this looks. Now, since this is going to be a night starry sky, we're going to spray some water on this. It's just plain water, and that water is going to react with the distress ink and create kind of a cool, kind of starry texture. I'm going to take a paper towel and just pick up any of the excess and just kind of keep spraying it until I have as many stars as I want in the sky. For some added texture, we're also going to take some white paint. This is some Copic white, but you could use any kind of white acrylic paint. We're going to grab some and we're going to mix it with water to dilute it a little bit. We'll pick up some of that on a paintbrush, tap the paintbrush, and little tiny stars are going to fly off the paintbrush and fill our night sky. So I'm just going to tap it until there's enough stars, and then we can set that off to dry. Now we're going to start working on that circle for the center. So we've used the one from this add-on, which is a nice plain circle, and we're going to be stamping some things from the Superstar set. And there is a constellation in the shape of the star in this set, which I think is so cute. And so we're going to be doing that. So we're going to run that cover plate again through the die cut machine, but we're just going to use the white center in the middle. We'll add an anti-static powder tool here on there so that our heat embossing powder will only stick to what we've stamped in this nice clear embossing ink. So we're just going to cover that in white heat embossing powder and heat it up, and we're going to be doing an emboss resist technique with some distress ink. Once that powder is melted in a nice bright shiny white, we're going to be adding on there Faded Jeans, Chip Sapphire, and Black Soot. And I want it lightest towards the middle and darkest on the outside. So I'm going to put that lightest blue in the center, and then the darkest blue is going to come from the outside in to kind of help me blend it. And this is one of my favorite parts because as we add the ink over the white heat embossing powder, you can see that star start to form. Now, to create more of like kind of a night sky look, we're going to add that black soot around the edges and kind of keep going back and forth between the colors until it's nice and blended. Now, to have this kind of look like that cool sky that we just created, we're going to be doing both the water spraying and the white marks. But before we do that, we need to buff this star out. So this is just a dry paper towel, and I'm just buffing over that heat embossing, and you can see as we take the ink off, that star just really starts to shine. Now we're going to spray a little bit of water and pick up any of the excess water with a paper towel. And then we're going to take that same white paint. I just left it there to the side. We're just going to pick up some of that, and then we can go ahead and splatter that as well. We're going to set this circle off to dry, and we're going to be doing some stamping onto that sky that's now nice and dry. So we're going to be stamping the sentiment here from Superstar, and I love that there's a solid and an outline of the word Superstar, and so we're going to be using the outline one so that that cool inking can still shine through, and I think it's such a cool look to see that beautiful ink blended come through those letters. And this sentiment makes me so happy. It says there are stars, and then there are superstars, which I think is so sweet. Next, to create a ground, we've gone ahead and cut that same add-on out of some black shimmer cardstock, which is so pretty, and then we're going to die cut the bottom of that with a simple grassy hillside, and then we can layer that right on top, and I think it looks so pretty, and it's starting to set the scene with that beautiful pink coming out of the black grass. Here is that Superstar stamp set again, and I went ahead and stamped, colored, and die cut a mouse and a telescope, and we're going to add them on with some foam squares into this cute scene. We're going to bring out our magic iris again, and we're also going to bring out the arrow tab that's included with the add-on. And so that arrow tab, we're going to cut it out of some of the excess of that inking that we had before so that it perfectly coordinates with the rest of the card. We'll add some tape runner to that decorative arrow piece, and then we're going to attach that onto the tab of the magic iris. As we attach it, like we did before, we've got a little extra piece of tab there on the right-hand side. We're going to take our scissors and just trim off any of that excess, giving the magic iris a new style of tab. We're also going to cut that tab one more time from some of that extra black shimmer cardstock that I had, and we're going to pick that up, add some liquid glue on the back, and drop that right into the arrow. And so now the arrow is going to coordinate with that shimmery grass at the bottom, which I think is really cute. Then we're going to add adhesive all over the top of our ring, and we're going to be lining it up behind our cover plate. So we're going to not only line up the circle, but we're also going to line up that tab so that it's nice and flush on that right-hand side, filling in our rectangle. So we'll line up the circle and then kind of shift it over until that tab lines up right there with the rectangle. Once we have it in perfect placement, we can press down and secure the magic iris to our decorative front of our card. Next up, we're going to take that circle that we stamped with a star earlier, and we're going to be lining that up onto our card base, which is 5.5 by 4.25 out of some black licorice cardstock. So we're going to open up our magic iris, add some adhesive to the back of the circle, kind of lay that on top of the card as it's going to go once we finally secure it, and use that as a guide as to where our circle is going to go onto that card base. So we can just pop that circle right through and then press down onto it and make sure that it's nice and secure to the card base, just like that. Next, we'll flip our magic iris piece over, and we're going to add foam squares in all 4 corners and also in the middle of the top and the bottom, making sure they're out of the way of our moving tab. We're also going to add some tape runner only on those stabilizers there to make sure that we don't have any adhesive in the way of the moving action of our magic iris. Once we have those adhesive all down, we can peel up the liner paper on the foam squares and then attach that onto the card. And we're going to do that with the magic iris open so that we can look through and line it up with that star, just like that. So it's nice and easy. We can press down, and now that's formed our card, and it's all done. So here is a look at it in action. I love that pattern paper opening up to reveal that really cool ink star. It's the prettiest card. I love the background. It was so much fun to make. And I love being able to integrate the magic iris into my scene. So it's almost like as the mouse looks through the telescope, he's looking through and seeing this really cool constellation. And so you can imagine what cool scenes and what amazing things you could decorate with this. You could also even make it a landscape card instead of portrait and decorate it that way too. So there's so many cool ideas, and I'm already getting so excited to think about what you guys are going to come up with. Now it's time to create a card with the Scalloped add-on, which really makes the magic iris the star of the show on the front of your card. And so we're going to start off by cutting a ring, and you guessed it, we're going to take that flux capacitor looking piece, we're going to hold that in place and run it through our die cut machine to have a piece with 3 slots and 3 brackets. We're also going to die cut 3 of our sausage pieces, but right here we're going to do something a little bit different. And we're going to be using our Hey Lady stamp set to stamp directly on these sausage pieces. And we're going to be using this big leaf on all 3 of the pieces. Now here we're stamping these before they're actually in the functioning magic iris. You can also stamp onto the magic iris as we did at the very beginning with those dandelion pieces. So I just wanted to show you a different way. You can always decorate these sausage pieces beforehand. You could ink blend them, you can stamp on them, etc. And in this case, we're going to be stamping, adding some Copic marker coloring not only on the leaf, but also around the leaf too, to fill in the color all the way around. We're going to repeat the same exact thing on all 3 of the sausage pieces, and once we're all done with that coloring, we can go ahead and start to form our magic iris in the exact same way. So we have our ring that has our flux capacitor looking thing cut out of it. We're going to put each sausage in each slot, and we're going to push it all the way to the outside part of the ring. Then we're going to add glue dots, the 3/16 of an inch mini glue dot size, on each of those X marks the spots that the die created for us. Then we'll make sure to line the interior pieces of the sausages with the interior part of our ring, creating this nice perfect circle. Once we have those in placement, we're going to hold them in place with our fingers and take a plain ring and lay that on top, attaching that ring to those 3 glue dots. Next, we'll flip that magic iris over, and we're going to look for those brackets that the die created for us. We're going to take our tape runner and put tape runner right where those brackets are, from the inside of the ring to the outside of the ring in a nice straight line. We've also die cut 3 of the stabilizers, and we're going to be attaching those stabilizers to those strips of adhesive that we just added. The stabilizers have that nice curved edge, which is going to line up with the inside curve of our ring. Once we have those on there, we can flip it right back over, and we're going to be working with our tab next. So we're going to add some adhesive a little less than halfway down the tab. We're going to line up the curve of the tab with the curve of the ring, and then the edge of the tab with the edge of that stabilizer, creating that V shape. Then we can take another plain ring, lay that right on top. We're going to add some tape runner to the top of those 3 stabilizers. And then those stabilizers are going to lightly hug around, attaching to that top ring. So we're going to make sure everything is nice and lined up and then hug those stabilizers around. As we attach them down, you'll notice that they're not going to go all the way to the inside part of the ring, and that's good. That's how you'll know that you've lightly hugged them around. And now our magic iris has been formed, and as we test it out, you can see how cool does that stamping look as it moves. Now our next step is to use the scalloped add-on, and we've die cut some really rainbow paper here. And so this is going to be the cutest decoration for our magic iris. We're taking out the A Bug Deal stamp set, and it's got a great happy birthday sentiment in there. And we're going to take that stamp and we're going to curve it to match the curve of this scalloped add-on. And then we can stamp that onto the add-on in some black licorice ink. Next, we're going to create our card base, and we're actually going to create a really similar card base to the beginning card at the video. I already had these papers on my desk. I thought they looked so cute together, so I thought, why not just use them again? So we've got our Hello Sunshine Remix paper with that cool hot pink and then the really cute banners. And we're also going to take a strip, it's about 1 inch tall there, of some Cilantro cardstock, and that's just going to be our grass base. We're mostly going to be covering that up, but you'll see why it'll be a little nice to have some green behind there. We're going to add some tape runner to the top of that ring, and then we're going to place that ring onto our card closed so we can have the perfect placement for our tab, since I'm going to be mailing this closed to the recipient. Once we have that perfect placement, we can go ahead and add our scalloped piece on and make sure that that happy birthday is nice right up at the top and in the center. Once our decorative scalloped add-on is on top, we can turn our magic iris over and add our adhesive only to the 3 stabilizers on the back. Once we have that adhesive on there, we can flip it right back over and once again line it up on our card so that that tab is in perfect placement with our closed magic iris. I'm going to push down really well to make sure it's nice and adhered, and now you can see that we're opening up to that pattern paper in the background. We're going to be taking out 2 of my favorite new sets, which is A Bug Deal and Hey Lady, and we're going to be mixing and matching images from this set. So we've got that awesome big leaf from Hey Lady and lots of cute little bugs from A Bug Deal that we're going to mix and match. And I love the idea of having the leaves in the center of the magic iris and also surrounding it. So it really looks like this huge pile of greenery, and we're really kind of integrating the magic iris into what's happening in the scene on our card. So I'm just adding some adhesive to the back of those leaves and creating this really cool kind of triple leaf here. We're also going to take that awesome big branch and we're going to layer that onto the leaves too. And I just think it looks cool, like all those leaves are hanging on a branch, maybe up high in a tree. We'll then add adhesive to the back of that entire little cluster of the branch and leaves, and we're going to attach that right onto the scalloped add-on. And I think it's a really, really cool look just to have all those leaves kind of framing it at the bottom. Now to help continue the rest of that scene, we're going to cut 2 more leaves and attach those kind of behind the magic iris. And so that's why we put that green paper down, just to fill in any blank areas, but those big leaves are really the star of our show and kind of like the grass for our scene. We're going to stamp out this sentiment, which is "This is a really bug deal," which always cracks me up. We're going to die cut that with a banner, and then we're going to cut it again, kind of shifting it down to create a custom length banner for this sentiment. So we're just going to line that right back up in the die, right at the end of the phrase, run it through the die cut machine again, and now we have this perfect length banner for that exact sentiment, and we can layer that right on top of our leaves. Then we can start to take our characters and put them in the scene. And I love this because I love deciding where these cute little bugs might be hanging out in this scene. We're going to have some on the leaves, and we're also going to put some in the sky to kind of tie the sky into our leaves at the bottom. We've cut the decorative arrow tab piece out of some Cilantro cardstock to kind of coordinate with our leaves here. We're going to add some tape runner to that and then add that to the tab so that the recipient knows that there's something super cool. And in this case, we're going to open our magic iris and do something a little bit different. And we're going to actually just have this magic iris opening up to that pattern paper. That pattern paper is so cute. And this is a really easy way to create a magic iris because you don't even have to decorate that little circle in the center. You can just have it open up to the pattern paper that you have or colored cardstock that you have in the background. So we've taken that cute worm and that little cupcake with the leaf on top, put it on another big leaf, and we're just going to trim off the bottom of that leaf because I want that leaf to look like it's tucked behind the other ones when you open up the magic iris. So we're going to add some tape runner, and then we're just going to kind of shove that guy in right in the back and attach it to that pattern paper in the background. Kind of like we did those circles at the very beginning, but in this case it's a stamped image instead of the circle that kind of comes with the set. And then here you can see the finished card, and it is so cool. I love seeing those stamped images kind of melt away and then reveal the really cute little worm on the inside. I love that we created an opening that just goes straight to the pattern paper that we have in the back of the card. I think it's a really cool look, and stamping on those sausages was so much fun. So I just adore being able to create scenes and mix and match different stamped elements. And now next up, we have some incredible cards to show you from the design team. First up, we have this stunning card by Elena. I love how she ink blended directly onto those moving pieces and that she has the rest of her sentiment finishing out in the card. This card by Jen uses the Scalloped add-on, and I love how she layered that magnifying glass on top so that when you open it, it looks like that ladybug has been magnified by the glass. And here, Shari did something super cute in that she created kind of like a big magnifying glass that opens up into that adorable ladybug. And don't worry, we will be showing this in a video coming soon. Maureen used one of my old favorite sets, and that's Loads of Fun, to create the coolest washing machine. She even used vellum for those moving sausage pieces, which is so clever and cool. Here I love how Megan stamped that fortune cookie directly onto the magic iris, and as it opens, it cracks open and reveals the fortune. How clever is this? Our stitched flower frame is a perfect fit for the magic iris, and I love how Elise stamped her sentiment in the center, and as it opens and breaks away, it reveals that adorable smiley face. Audrey used our porthole frames to create the coolest card with Ahoy Matey. I love that it's like the telescope is opening up to see the ship. So cute. And this card by Jen is absolutely adorable. I love the scene with the cute fox looking up at the star. Here, Tammy layered our How You Bean jar over the magic iris to create the coolest look. I absolutely love this, and I love how well the magic iris works with our current sets and some of our old favorites too. This card by Letitia is so cute. The envelope opens up to create this cool little I love you message, so sweet. And this card by Megan is adorable. That cloud breaks open to show that cute little bear, and he's holding one of the Yay kites there. I think it's so sweet how it kind of extends the rest of the scene. And then this card by Jen is so sweet because as you open it, it opens up to the sentiment, which is such a cool way to use the magic iris. And here we have the great reveal to that cute little Easter basket. So you can really mix and match sets and do so many cool things. And I cannot wait to see what you guys do with the magic iris. So make sure to share it with us. I want to thank you guys so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye.